What's up, everybody? I want to do a quick rundown of where I see, the economy, what's really going on behind the scenes, what people really are talking about, where I see this all going. And then at the end, what I think is going to be the most profitable thing we could all be doing and what we should be looking at right now. Please, as I say in the videos, please smash that like button. This is the first live I've ever done on this channel. Generally, I go live on my second channel. I leave the links generally pinned down below on all my videos. I think I might even be able to leave it here. Let's see here. Yeah, I'll just leave it pinned at the end here. But it's generally my second channel here. So hey, what's up, Leon? So what Biden just said, did you guys hear about what Biden just said? He said essentially that there's going to be some big changes coming in the fall for all of us. And what I think is likely to happen is we're going to start to really see some big problems coming the next 2 to 3 months. And we're definitely not out of the woods just yet. So a lot of small businesses, a lot of companies in general, at least up until about a couple weeks ago, thought that we were going to be out of the woods and everything was going to be completely fine. But Biden, and as well as a lot of other people, a lot of other politicians, have said that they are considering to close things back down again. Now, if that does happen, we're going to see that cripple through the stock market, through the real estate market, and most importantly, consumer confidence with spending. Now, what I think is likely going to happen going forward is we're going to start to see more attention go online and more businesses go online out of sheer necessity of survival, because the cost of rent now with minimum wage increasing, the cost of goods and services increasing, and this now two-tier society that's really being built is a shame. If we look at what's going on in Australia, France, Germany, and Greece, and Italy, if that comes to America, you're going to have a good chunk of people that first and foremost don't want to participate in that, and they won't go spend their money at these mom and pop stores, which is ultimately only going to take away from sales that these small businesses have. So they're going to have less sales with higher costs. It's going to be very hard for them to sustain, especially after roughly 18 months of inconsistent, really income. So when all this stuff kind of dwindles and rolls out, and then we have on top of that the eviction moratorium expiring and forbearances starting to fade away, what we're likely going to have is a situation where we're going to see a big correction. We look at what happened in March, April 2020, we saw a big dip in the stock market. I think that paled in comparison, and the only reason that we even recovered from that is because of all the stimulus and Big Brother stepping in. But when that doesn't happen, the real estate market's being held together by Big Brother. Stock market, the same thing. A lot of these markets are so delicate right now. It won't take much for us to see a really big change, a really big transfer. And if we look at who the real decision makers are in terms of how the economy is functioning, it's the big tech giants now. The big tech giants are, if you look at how they handled the early stages of 2020, when we started shutting down, they started offering all of these subsidies to small businesses, saying, oh, $50 million, $100 million worth of grants for small businesses to advertise online. We really care about small business. We want to help small business. Meanwhile, what happened during that period was that they were able to start bringing small business online, to build a consumer base online, build dependency online, so that when the stimulus packages came through and the cost of goods and services and advertising increased over time, they were able to capitalize on that and strip away small businesses' dependency on their local communities. Now, when we have this system set up, what we're likely going to see is we're going to see the big companies, McDonald's and Bank of America and all these companies, seeing this is a big opportunity. They can say, hey, we can combat, this inequality, this problem that we have by increasing wages to give everyone an affordable quality of life. Let's give them a wage that they can live on. Everyone's loving that idea. It sounds great. But meanwhile, what happens is that they just increase the cost of goods and services, and they push all of that cost onto the consumer. The consumer floats that additional cost. Mom and pop business can't compete with that. So what I think is very likely to happen is over the next couple years, they're going to continue doing that. And with the restrictions that are going to come to small business and the increased cost, small businesses are going to be able to survive. Then what is likely to happen is as affordability starts to really diminish throughout the middle class. I mean, we've got to remember, America is comprised of roughly 30,500,000 small businesses. It's not the corporations that are supporting America. It's really not. Corporations, they outsource as much as they possibly can. You call Amazon customer service, that person's not in LA that answers the phone. They're in the Philippines. They're going to continue outsourcing as much as possible. And as we see this erosion, they're going to bring in tech and AI and robotics as much as they can possibly do to save cost. They're going to do it. And then when this happens, how can people afford a $2,000 rent in LA or $2,500 rent in San Fran? It's going to be very challenging, you know, and these people that can afford that will have other alternatives, will have other options. That's why I'm looking at this economy right now, looking at all spaces, and I say, it's so interesting how at the flip of a switch, Big Brother can just cripple any certain market now. They can just put out certain headlines and bring a lot of fear because everyone's on edge. I mean, we've seen a lot of the videos that, you know, that's been circulating really around the internet about what's happening all over the world. And a lot of people, you know, they're awake, they're aware, they understand what's happening. But things just don't add up. Things do not make any sense. You know, California is going absolutely crazy right now. New York, Miami, they're going after all these markets. And it's going to be really shocking to see how the rest of 2021 unfolds. I think cash will be king, but I think cash long-term is going to die. I think cash long-term is going to get hit really hard, but in the short term, I think it'll be king. And I think it's going to be really necessary to have a lot of it because, you know, when they say when blood hits the street, you want to have cash, you want to be able to go out there and buy. But right now, prices are insane across the board. It's hard to make sense of nearly anything. I'm in the process of buying a couple things right now, and I'm talking about this generally on my second channel. I'll leave the links. You guys know where to find the links. You guys can click the community tab. It's my last comment. You guys can click there, or I'll just pin it at the top comment. But my main channel, what I'm doing and how I'm kind of protecting myself as I step into this big change is I think a couple things are going to be really important. First is going to be transportation, being able to get around somewhere. I think flying is going to be really unpleasant over the next couple of years. I think it's going to be really restrictive, and I think it's just not going to be possible. So that's why right now I'm in the process of getting my private pilot license, which is not that expensive, but I'm learning aviation. I'm going to buy an aircraft. I was under a contract for one about a week and a half ago. It didn't work out. And now I'm about to enter contract on a second one. Hopefully this works out. I'm going to document all this on my second channel. And the second thing is buying a ranch, which is going to be away from a lot of the city hubs. So it's actually in a really remote area. And I'm going to put a dirt runway on the land, which I think will be pretty cool. I think I actually have a picture of it. Hold on. I'll show you guys like how it's going to look. But I'm going to do, it's going to look like that. So we're going to take down those trees and we're going to put a dirt runway there. So that's what I think is a smart move right now, is accumulating land, accumulating assets that you can move around with. Borrowing money is also really, really good. If you can borrow it on assets that make sense, that are going to hold value. For example, that aircraft, I could pay for it outright, but I won't, because you can borrow the money at 3.8%. And my perspective is that over the next couple of years, the dollar is dying by a much greater margin than 3.8%. So the margin in which the dollar dies, it'll be all profit. So if it dies by hypothetically 8 or 10%, and I'm borrowing it at 3.8%, then I'm making 6% on money borrowed. And yeah, so I'm trying to build out a plan around this, because I know things are likely going to get really, really insane. I think things are going to get crazy. And I think a lot of people are just waiting. A lot of people are on edge right now, saying like, what's going to happen next? What is going to be the next big headline? We see some of these headlines that are coming out now, and it's pretty concerning. Like, you know, I lived in LA for 12, actually close to like 15 years, right when I first went there, combined about 15 years. And I just sold my home there. I just sold it, closed last week on Tuesday, which is a shame. I love love LA, or I did love it before all this happened. But I moved out there, bought this property, it fixed it up. It was a great situation. But with the eviction moratorium, with everything that's happening, it was a house hack situation where there was other units on the property. But as everything started unfolding, I just realized that California is probably not going to be a place that I'm going to want to be with, a child. I have another child on the way going forward. So I ended up liquidating that property. Right now I'm in Florida, and I'm going to be traveling around a lot more. I was just in Mexico for a few weeks. We're going to see. The thing is, even if Gavin does go, it won't make much of a difference, because I think most likely they're probably going to replace Gavin with somebody else that has a similar, ideals. Maybe not, but I don't think that they're going to allow one person in California to completely offset everything. Even if we look at what's going on in Florida, where I am right now, DeSantis is saying a lot of things that sound like very similar to what Cuomo would be saying or Newsom would be saying. The tonality is changing, even in these states that we would think, hey, these states are for freedom. These states are for capitalism. It's really not so much that when you listen to some of these press conferences. It's pretty, it's pretty sketchy. And it makes me wonder, that's why I have a lot of reservations right now with putting a ton of money into the market, because I know at a flip of a switch, Big Brother can just crash everything. It's no longer based on fundamentals. If you're getting stock advice and crypto advice and real estate advice from your Uber driver, it's probably a bad time to be in the market. And that's basically what's happening right now. Everybody is making a ton of money on just about everything. And when has that ever been long lasting? Generally the best times to invest are when everyone's telling you not to invest in something. And when people are saying, you shouldn't invest in that property, you shouldn't buy this, you'd be an idiot to buy real estate then. That's generally the best time to start shopping for real estate. But right now it's crazy. Where I'm at right now in Florida, properties have increased 28% since last year. 28% in this market since last year. Typical property appreciation might be 3% or 4% in hot markets. If you're in LA, maybe 5 or 6%, or maybe a little bit more consistently. But 28% in a single year? No. That's why we're renting right now. We're we're not gonna buy in Florida at this time. I'm actually gonna wait to kind of see what DeSantis does over the next 12 months, or maybe 6 months, if we're considering to purchase anything here in Florida. Eviction ban will likely not end. I actually agree with you. I agree with you for California. Newsom is not going to give up that power. Newsom has that SB 1079 law, which will allow him the first right of refusal to buy all foreclosures in California. So if you have a property and you're an investor and you go out there and buy this property, it's in foreclosure, then what ultimately happens, you have to present that property and register the property and let California have first right of refusal to buy the property from you. So if you have a great deal, like an incredible deal, California can say, hey, you know what? We like that deal too. It's $1 million deal, and we can buy for $500,000. We'll go ahead and buy that, and we're going to use your tax funds to do so. That's what's happening in California right now. So it doesn't make logical sense for California and New York and some of these other states to lift the moratorium. I actually think that Pelosi might try to push through and extend the eviction moratorium going forward. I keep seeing headlines even today saying that they're trying to urge Biden to extend the moratorium. We don't know if that will happen. We don't know if that will happen. But it makes me wonder, there's actually good reason why they would and why they would not. Why they would not is I think that they would increase the rates for people to do the thing. Now, if they say, hey, you know what, we're going to offer financial incentives, we're going to offer housing, we're going to offer this, we're going to offer that, it's going to bring a lot more people to the table for a conversation. And that's kind of what they want. They're predicting about 3.6 million people will be evicted in the next 60 days. Now, right now, we're already going to see a lot of people being evicted just because tenants think the moratorium expired, because it did. And landlords with half a brain are out there right now trying to negotiate an exit with these tenants, either trying to release them of some rent or give them some money, doing whatever they can possibly do to get them out. That's what I'd be doing. If I had tenants in California right now that were not paying, that's what I'd be doing. I'd be giving them money to leave right now. I mean, I had a tenant in LA, last month. This tenant had great communication before the moratorium. And then when the moratorium started kicking in, She would stop responding to me. She would pay rent late, all these things. I'm like, hopefully we can sell this property before she starts defaulting on rent. Because if you have a tenant that's defaulting on rent in the eviction moratorium, the buyer's going to want to take advantage of that opportunity and say, hey, you know what, you're selling a big problem here, and they're going to want a discount. And that discount could be 50 grand, 60 grand or more. So yeah, I mean, it's insane what happened to California. California was the place to be a few years ago. It wasn't the best a few years ago. It was the place to be, though. You had great opportunity, great weather. I mean, real estate, great appreciation. That was the spot to invest. But now it's just it's extremely risky. I think personally, the risk does not match the price that you're going to pay to enter that market. In most of those markets, me personally, I wouldn't buy there though right now. You still can't evict in California. No, you cannot evict until California. In fact, not September. That was before. Now Maxine Waters is trying to push it to December 31st. I posted that in my last video. December 31st, she wants to push out the eviction moratorium. So what that would likely mean is even if the moratorium expired right now, you would not be able to get a tenant out of that property for probably 12 months or 18 months. How the court system works is when this really starts opening back up, it's going to be the most important things first. Domestic violence, a lot of these real big, the bigger important cases are going to see the judge first. And then it will be the evictions. And you're going to have so much backlog. There's going to be so many attorneys that have filed over the last year that are going to have seniority, and they're going to see the judge before you. Now, you have 18 months or now maybe closer to 2 years with no evictions occurring in California throughout the moratorium. You're not getting that tenant out in 30 days. No, it's probably going to take you a year or more. Meanwhile, you accrue $2,000 a month or $3,000 a month in losses, plus $300 an hour for attorney's fees. My attorney in LA, you get out one tenant, you might spend 15 or 20 grand with this attorney. 15 to 20 grand to get out one tenant. If that same situation happened in Texas or Florida, you might get them out for a few $100. It's a completely different situation. That's why nowadays it's not political where you invest in property, but you do have to factor in the risk and reward. Certain markets offer a lot more risk and the reward is smaller, and the price does not really make sense for the amount of risk you're going to take on. So California, unfortunately, now exceeds the risk reward ratio for me. Yeah, I mean, so what I think is likely to happen, what I think are the biggest opportunities and where I see business going, I think the biggest opportunity will be real estate, definitely. But the big concerns with real estate is I think incomes are going to come down a lot. And I think affordability is going to be the big problem. Because as we start to see mom and pop businesses start to erode and big tech start to really have their choice of the employees that they want, they're going to start outsourcing more and more and more, I think intentionally, as much as possible, to drive incomes down lower so they can start buying up the assets at very discounted rates. What I also think is very likely to happen is as these eviction moratoriums start unfolding, forbearances start really unloading on the market, I think these big banks and these big companies are going to run out there and try to buy blocks of debt from these banks and turn these properties into rentals. We're seeing it right now with BlackRock and Blackstone, KKR. We're seeing it with these big companies. But I think that's in very small scale. I think that these companies right now they're setting up a situation to give the market a false sense of security, to increase the spending. And when they do that, they're going to keep prices high. Then when they increase interest rates or the market starts to shift, the fear will settle in, panic will settle in, and then they can buy it back even cheaper. It's almost like dollar cost averaging their properties. But what I think is the smart thing to do with real estate is a company I launched, ThisisLending.com. It's not yet ready. It'll probably be ready maybe in the next couple weeks. It's been a lot of work. But how this is going to work essentially is I talked about this on a video like maybe a couple weeks ago. But how this is going to work is basically the millions of properties that are going to be distressed, that these homeowners are going to likely be evicted and foreclosed. What I think is the smart thing is basically we recruit capital. We invest in these properties if these properties meet a certain criteria, meaning like 40% loan to value on the property. So if there's very little debt on the property, but the homeowner was unfortunately impacted by the pandemic and lost their job, they can't refinance their property, they're going to lose their property. We would essentially go in, offer a loan on the property based on 40% LTV, loan to value, take first position in the property. That homeowner would then pay a lease payment monthly to the fund. And essentially what would happen is that it will be distressed debt fund. So we're basically buying troubled loans and getting monthly payments. They would have a 3-year period to where they can get a job, they can get back on their feet, fix their credit, and then they can go in and they can buy the properties back for the price that the fund paid. So it's a great alternative to foreclosure because they're not going to have much of an option. And it's a great situation for an investor because the investor is protected against the property because it's basically being positioned at 40% or 40 cents on the dollar. So that is one of the big opportunities that I see right now. And another one, to inquire on information about either being a homeowner or an investor, you can go to ThisisLending.com. That is ThisisLending.com. Yeah, exactly. Jay-Z, Will Smith, and they're doing Landis, a startup on rent-to-own houses. That is going to be the opportunity. Is going to be is real estate and attention. Attention is going to be very, very important going forward. That's why I think also one of the big shifts that's about to happen that people I think are downplaying is the attention aspect of how the world's going to be going. Now, when small business starts getting impacted, what we're going to see is we're going to see companies that are, so we're going to see a series of situations happen. So first, we're going to see corporations take over, as we've already discussed. But we're going to see everyday Americans, they want to do business with an actual individual. They want to communicate and build a relationship with someone. They don't want to, work with Nike. They don't want to work with these big corporations. They want to have an actual direct relationship with someone. That's why I think online is so important. So if you have an online business, having a brand online or having your business have a big presence online so that you're able to weather these storms. Because what I think is likely to happen is these mom and pop businesses are going to go online. They're going to try their best to compete. Problem is big corporations are going to be able to pay more per customer. So they're going to pay more per customer. It's going to hurt small business. But small business, if they're online now and they're working really hard, then they're going to put themselves in that position to build a real connection with their customer, which is going to be most important. A real connection. Because for me, if I go to a local store around the corner and they know who I am, like this coffee shop I go to, I get a bacon, egg, and cheese, and a croissant, and an iced vanilla latte every single day. And whenever I walk in, they already have it in, it's already being made, like without even saying anything to me. When you have that relationship, I wouldn't go to a corporation. And that's what I think is going to be important, is having your business online and having that great relationship with the customer to where they know you and you know them and they get something great, especially because they have that relationship with you. So I think right now is that great time to start building out that relationship online. I think online is going to be like that pivotal period, really, because when we start stepping into a new series of potential closures, we're going to see small businesses start to get crumbled. Please smash that like button. It really does a lot for this video. Also, subscribe here and subscribe to my second channel. I'm going to leave the links to my second channel pinned down below. Vodka or water in your glass? Oh, no, definitely not vodka. It's water. Someone said, who's better, Meet Kevin or Larry Elder? I don't, to be completely honest with you, I haven't looked at either of their plans. But I personally think that this recall election will likely not go to plan, if I were to guess, because I think that there's going to be a lot that's going to unfold in the next couple months. I hope that Newsom gets recalled, to be honest with you. I don't like Newsom. I don't like what he's done to that state. And he's really brought some policies through that I think are going to do some long-term damage to the citizens of California. What we're witnessing is the robbing. Yeah, I mean, you're telling me. I mean, I have an 18-month-old, and I have another baby on the way. And I'm looking at how easy my life was compared to them. And I didn't have it easy. But I mean, compared to what they're going to have, yeah, I mean, it's going to be so hard for them to do something. That's why right now I'm hustling. I'm really hustling. I'm working on multiple businesses. My pilot's license. I was just in Mexico looking at property out there. I'm doing everything I can possibly do to either get multiple passports and have multiple options, just doing things to have backup plans. Because in this world that we live in right now, we don't live in a world that was, where we can be sitting back, relaxing. It's a world that anything can happen. And I think everyone's starting to wake up to just how serious that is right now. Yeah, I'm in Florida right now. Thanks, Rick. Yeah, I'm in Florida right now. Sheriff in Chicago told me it would take 12 months to evict someone, possibly 2 years. Yeah, that's right, Drew. Exactly what I said. That's exactly what is going to happen. So you tell me this. This is the real kicker here. If you look at how many mom and pop landlords there are, it's most landlords. Most landlords are mom and pop landlords. They took a loss in their business. They were told that their tenants would get their rent paid from Big Brother, and really only a couple percentage points of that money in Congress, roughly $50 billion, actually went to landlords. Most of it went, in fact, to Invitation Homes and the big corporations. And these corporations are increasing their rent. Then they're taking the money directly from Congress, showing record profits, and then using that Congress money to go out there and buy America, right? So what we're seeing, it's pretty insane, really. What we're seeing is mom and pop landlords, their businesses are getting hit, their costs are going up, and they're told, yeah, just log into forbearance, just push your debts forward and you can take care of it at the end. Don't worry, we'll pay your tenant's rent. Meanwhile, the forbearance is going to expire soon. The rent hasn't been paid, and their business is shakier than it's probably ever been. So this whole thing is it's nuts. Like it's really pretty insane. And I think that what we're going to witness over the next 12 months, we can look at things that, the good way and the bad way. I try to put a smile on my face on all my videos, even if it's a negative topic, just because, like, what choice do I have, right? I'll try to see the bright side of things, as much as I possibly can. But what we're going to see is the biggest opportunity for everybody. In your business, you can look at it that way. This is the biggest opportunity you'll probably ever have to make a lot of money. And we see the writing on the wall. I mean, even if we didn't want to look at that way, there's no other alternative. There's nothing that we can do about it. It's all happening right now. So we're going to likely see a big correction come very soon. There's really no other way that this can continue for another year or 2 years or 3 years. What are they going to print 3 or 4 more stimulus packages, bring another $10 trillion into the market? They're already talking about a new infrastructure plan. There's no way that they're going to be able to continue printing this money at almost 0% interest rate and keep everyone inside. I don't see it. I really don't see it. I think that they're going to likely start letting the cat out of the bag for a little bit, and they're going to have to. And I think that goes actually along with what they want anyway. So we're going to start to see this whole thing unravel. But yeah, I mean, my advice to everyone out there, if you have like $2,000 or $3,000 and you have a nice car or you have expenses, I would start cutting down on those expenses as much as you can. Start stacking cash, increasing your credit, reading as much as possible, and putting yourself in a position to make a life-changing decision. That's what I would do. I'd be looking at those opportunities, not gambling on things that I don't know anything about, trying to bet on some meme coin. I'd really be trying to buy value, something that's going to be able to weather a really big storm, because I personally believe a big storm is going to be right around the corner. And when that comes, it's going to be the smart investor that's ready for it. It's going to be the smart investor that is going to do that. For me right now, I bank with a couple different banks, and over the last couple months, I've been pulling credit lines at all of them, opening different credit cards, opening different companies, getting lines of credit on those companies, doing everything I could possibly do to draw as much credit as possible. And when you have additional credit lines, you're going to increase your score because they're going to see how much debt is afforded to you. So that's what I've been doing. I got my credit score, about 810 right now, but slowly picking it up. Ideally want to get it to closer to the 830, 840 range. But that's going to be the key. You're going to want cash, you're going to want credit, you're going to want knowledge, you're going to want to be able to go out there and take advantage of it. Yep, I'm with you too on that, Kevin. Yeah, that could definitely be a real situation too. I mean, there's so many things. That's the crazy thing right now. And I agree with you, WT. One of the crazy things right now is that there could just be like one big headline that comes out and changes the entire game. And every day people are going out looking at these headlines. If there's one big headline that comes out, it's going to flip off like a light switch. People are going to start panicking. And yeah, I mean, Jay said, what are my thoughts on gold? I like gold, but I would only buy gold if I held possession of it. I wouldn't buy gold for someone else to hold it. The point of gold or having commodities would be for me to maintain possession of it. So I would have it at my disposal. You know, for me, if you guys ever heard of a bail-in, I'm sure, I don't know if you guys ever heard of this, but they passed this basically when banks run into financial problems, they can bail themselves out of that problem with the money that depositors have put inside of the bank. It's pretty concerning stuff, but if you look into it, it's a real thing. It's called a bail-in, and it came out maybe 12, 13 years ago. So if that does happen, we will see some, who knows if that will happen, but it is something that's in law. It is an option that they do have. So I think some of the biggest opportunities, circling back, is going to be distressed real estate, getting cash into an asset that's going to hold value, borrowing money at really, really low rates, fixed debt, and investing in things that are going to be able to weather a good storm. So I think my company, This Is Lending, I think is going to create a lot of value. Also, I think YouTube is going to be huge going forward for a variety of reasons. The biggest reason is going to be the cost of advertising is going to skyrocket. When the cost of advertising skyrockets, people are going to look for alternatives to advertise their products and services. That likely will be through an influencer or someone that has a big following. I believe what will likely happen over the next couple of years as these businesses will say, hey, why don't I partner up with this influencer? Why don't I partner up with this person and give them a piece of equity in the company? And in response to that, I'll sign a 2-year deal or a 3-year deal with this influencer. I think that is a very big possibility. And I think that that's likely almost no way for that not to happen, especially as the costs just continue to increase. So I think starting on YouTube, for some people that have that desire, I think now is probably the best time. You know, for me, I film all my videos with this microphone. I got like a little $30 tripod, and I film all the videos on my cell phone. So it's like my costs are like zero. Pretty awesome. Rent, good utilities, forget even old cars going up in price. Yep, yeah, 100%. 100%. What kind of loan and where to go for the first time buyer with land, natural water source, John? So I would be looking at states that have great property rights. And for example, Northern Florida, probably not the place to buy land because there's a lot of wetlands throughout Florida. And these wetlands generally come with restrictions. And these restrictions, unfortunately, impact the value of your property. So places like Texas and maybe Tennessee, there's some other places that offer great protections for property owners. That's something that I think everyone should be looking at. So property rights, natural water source, acres, buying a lot of land. Michael Burry said that buying land with a natural water source is probably the best investment throughout a deep recession. And I agree. I mean, I think that's probably why him and Bill Gates are out there buying a lot of land. I mean, Zac Efron just sold a $5.7 million house in Los Feliz in LA to go buy 318 acres in Australia with 3 natural water sources. So a lot of people are just going out there and putting money into land. I own stocks, deep converted calls, Amazon, Google, Facebook, Media. I'm going to let them go and go to cash, call it good. Yeah, I mean, I bought some stock in a company called Copang, and it's going to be a long-term hold, but I think it's likely going to do well when I believe personally that we're not going to step into like a 2019 America for a very, very, very long time. And I think that's going to happen generally like globally. I think online shopping is going to only increase. So the company Copang, it offers incredible service, but it's like an Amazon, but the difference is that they deliver within hours, and they're expanding from South Korea to Japan to Singapore. They're expanding rapidly right now. And I think they got big funding from SoftBank and BlackRock and a couple other big companies. Bill Gates, a lot of people just bought a bunch of it. We'll see how it does. I mean, I put a decent amount of money, like almost 20 grand into it. I'm just going to let it sit for 5 years, and either it'll do really well or it won't. And so I'm willing just to risk it on that. I think it could be a really big opportunity. But yeah, am I still in California? I'm not in California. I'm not in California. I don't have any intentions of going back. Not anytime soon anyway. My wife is there right now with my son, but I'm not there. Yeah, I mean, if you just look at what's happening globally, we all know that that's going to come to America, and that just comes that big question is, what do we do right now? How do we see the world to capitalize on what the world likely will be in the next 6 months? That's going to be that real key, is navigating the future, because the future is going to be, I think the writing's on the wall. I think we see really a lot of what is to come. Miami is not, I think Miami's not the spot to invest right now. I really don't. I think that they're going to bring forward a lot of new, if you go to miamidade.gov and you look at, I did a video on this, and you look at the changes that they want to do to real estate by 2024, they essentially want to retrofit all the properties throughout Miami. This isn't a thought or a theory. I mean, it's on the website. It says that they want to retrofit all these properties. They said that the building that fell was due to that problem and that they need to retrofit all these properties. If we look at the property appreciation in Miami over the last couple of years, it's insane. It's because a lot of the money coming from New York and LA, they can afford to spend. So they're just taking it to a state that's going to be a bit more friendly, and they're putting their money there. You know, they're like, hey, decent weather, good business climate, no income tax. You know, I can hire employees here. This is a better spot for me to relocate my business. A lot of people are just pouring capital there. A lot of people are 1031 exchanging out of their buildings in New York and LA and going there. You know, the realtor that I used to sell the LA property, he had 8 clients that sold properties since the shutdown, and they all went to Miami. 8. So a lot of people are going there. But I think that that is not going to be long lasting. It's not going to be sustainable. And I think that there's going to be big problems coming to Miami, unfortunately. Be sure to subscribe here. Also subscribe to my second channel. And I'm going to be doing a lot more of these lives, probably on my second channel. I might do them more here too. But if you want to be updated on the properties that I'm buying, the plane that I end up closing on, and yeah, I think I could even, maybe I can even show you guys a picture of it. Let's see here. So it's, I don't know if you guys can see it, but let's see. It's a 6-seater. So it's called a Bonanza G36. It has like brand new avionics or updated avionics. It's about 10-year-old plane. But when I get the plane, we get the land, when I start buying all this stuff, you guys can kind of see how I'm spending my money, how I'm investing it, and what I'm doing to navigate for the future. But yeah, subscribe here, subscribe to my second channel. And yeah, this is my first live on this channel. So maybe I'll do another one later, maybe later this week. I'll catch you guys in the next live.